Yes, we are live now.
Okay, okay. Thanks, thanks, Krish. Hi, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Dil Ki Baatein on the GenS Live platform, where we take up one question sent in by viewers and talk about some of the things that need to be fixed by seniors, either with themselves or with the next generation or with the older generation. Um, and the lovely thing is that there is inputs at the end of the discussion from the viewership, from you people, from people who are listening in on YouTube. So I want to quickly today, before going into today's theme, just want to bring up last week we had, for those of you who didn't attend, last week we had a discussion on somebody who had written in on having to look after the health and health needs of a high achiever daughter who's 37 years old, but who seems to be not able to do the daily things of life, and is the parents are feeling the burden of kind of propping up this person while she's doing her research and work and we had a long discussion about it. Dipali was not here, but Dipali then went and saw it on YouTube, and she sent a bunch of things as kind of coping mechanisms, and some of them almost strategic or strategy. And one of the things we talked about was asking this couple to step back a little and not be so available to this 37-year-old grown daughter, and to let her know that they also have some stuff, but things going on in their lives. Dipali had a very specific suggestion, which is that the parents, when they're on an online chat with her or on the phone or in whatever mode that they're communicating, should bother to let her know, let slip into the conversation stuff about their own health, um, not made up stuff, but let this grown child know that they are looking after their own uh, health and financial health, if there have been ups and downs in that, instead of mollycoddling this 37-year-old woman where you are only propping her up, to also let her know without sort of wagging your finger at her, but let slip, literally. I think that's what Dipali was suggesting. You let slip some of these pressures that there are on you, which have nothing to do with her, but for a grown young woman to be slightly aware that my parents cannot be plugged into just to sort out my mismanagement of my time or my schedules. This was, I thought, a very useful thing in the journey that we're suggesting to these people, to pull back slightly, to be not available on tap, as I was calling it yesterday, that day, all the time. Um, and in doing that, I feel, Dipali, to add to your suggestion, in doing that, they will really turn also to their own priorities, which seem to be, they're getting, hijacked kind of into clearing up everything, because this is their primary project. This non-functioning young woman who's highly functioning on her work, but not functioning on other things. So that was a very useful suggestion, and I hope that it was who, Dilnaz and Hari. This was the people who are listening. I hope that they will get this additional input also. Okay, so thank you, Dipal, for that. Mm, to go to today's slightly serious, but extremely very important to uh, what do you call it, for all of us at any stage, um, ha- to start preparing for end of life. And this doesn't mean for your actual death, it includes that, but also your waning years, how to manage your waning years. I'll just answer the I'll just read you his question. The question is from Shaunak D. Um, Second. Yeah. He says, Shonak says, Gauri ma'am, I'm 78 and in okay health. However, anything could happen, and I have some clear ideas. 78 he is, okay? I have some clear ideas about how my end of life care should go. The care, the waning, towards the end of your life. For example, I do not want prolonging of life. I do not want my children to disrupt their lives if I get a long drawn out illness, but they should put me in some kind of hospice or such a facility or professional home care. Shonak is in India, by the way, and this is important because when we look at the options, it's quite different for if you are living in the Western world and you're living here. But just to clarify, he's writing from India. So he says that to put me in some kind of hospice or such a facility or professional home care. I have the resources for it, he says. I have seen some of my friends and colleagues last months or years being mishandled by family, not out of any bad intentions, but out of the children not coming to any agreement on decisions about this last lap of their parents' life. Right now, if I bring up the topic, as I am in sound health, they just dismiss it, saying you are not going anywhere, Baba. Please advise how to ensure that one's wishes are followed without any sentimental confusion on the subject. That's how he has put it. So yes, there is sentimental confusion when the topic comes up. Still, your children or your caregivers, you maybe even your spouse, is does not want to be either they don't want to be too practical and talk about that at all, or there is a nervousness to talk about logistics and actual brass tacks, what's going to happen when. But I think it is deeply important. I think it decides, and I totally understand where Shaunak is coming from in asking this question, that abhi se, when it is not, the situation is not here, why not put down some of the things, especially if you have a strong opinion about it. If you're not a person who says bacche karenge wo, let's see. But if you have a strongly articulated in your mind what maybe you don't know what you want, but you definitely know what you don't want because you're watching maybe some other people, some friends, then it's very important. I think the best way he can approach this topic is to say, I know, let's just, put aside the discomfort everybody feels talking about this. But it is important to me. He has to put that on the line. It's important to me that you listen. And if even that is difficult to do, maybe he or people in his position sit and themselves articulate and write down without interruption, without sentimental confusion, as he's calling it, without children feeling bad and siblings, not agreeing, and the whole thing becoming too live. Maybe he can sit and write down what he wants. So there's this, of course, this concept of the living will, which does not need a lawyer, which just needs you to sit down and write down what it is. But for that too, we have to, as seniors, educate ourselves on what the options are. It seems to be very different of what your options are in the Western world. It's quite templatized, and they have first of all, it's very common to move into a hospice when you are becoming quite debilitated. So none of your family members have to actually be, helping you or managing nursing help or anything. Not so common in India, though we are getting those facilities, but it's not so common to even in our heads. This is an option. So all the more important to write down what you want, because it has to be then planned accordingly. If he says that he has the money for it, that is one good starting point, maybe to say that I have put aside this much, for your children to be able to put me in, and maybe I start doing your homework on where you would like to be taken if you want to become debilitated. The other thing is to also, write it, when not just write down your intentions and what you want, but to write down a will. Of course is a very important part of this process. A proper registered will, that of course. A living will may be a more informal document that the person writes down. It's important for the people after you to know where all these things are. I remember very clearly, it must be part of being in denial, or just, I don't know, being not that, I wasn't that young also. I must have been in my, 40s, mid 40s, I think, when my father used to tell us, Acha, listen, girls, I made this FD, this is the thing, that is the thing. And I remember we and my sister, when we visited him, would say, ha ha, yeah, and make tea, and just ignore him. As if it's not a reality. Till he, I think, quite wisely realized one of the reasons being we are not bank people. We're just not we're not good with it. So our brains are shutting down when he's talking about FD and this and that, also one of the reasons. And he, I think, very wisely realized that we are either out of, love, embarrassment, fear, all these things, and being anguta chap about these things, all these things together make not paying attention. But what he did do one fine day is just literally wrote and pasted on the inside of his Godrej cupboard what is where. And one little certificate where he had on his own contacted some NGO that harvests our organs or takes your body. Wanted to donate. All those relevant things, he'd put them down there. And so he didn't have to kind of keep chasing us saying, pay attention, this is what I want and this is what we should do. This what I want part we knew kind of, but there it was, who to contact. I think it takes the confusion and yourself feeling bereft once a parent goes, or your child feeling bereft once you have gone, because there are things to do. If you give them things to do, इसके बाद ये करो, वो करो, वो करो, and ये नहीं करो और वो नहीं करो. And he's talking about also siblings not agreeing on simple things like whether to go on a ventilator or not, whether to, if you get a disease that is incurable but has a huge, medicine protocol in attempts to cure it, you don't believe in it. If you leave it in not articulated, your children are going to, it happens, all of you must have seen it, going to sort of fall out with each other on this, because somebody might be all about, keeping the person alive at all costs. Somebody else will be all about a gentler approach. Best to write it down. And so this is Shaunak's, I think Shaunak's homework is now right away. Not to rope them in necessarily just now, but for him to be very clear what he wants done and what he doesn't want done. In the Western world, you have something called end of life, or they call it advanced care planning. So it's a euphemism, really. You don't want to use the phrase end of life. But advanced care planning, I think, is a good description of what we are saying. End of life in a way is easy because it's you're talking about a very small window. But advanced care planning could go on for 5 years, 8 years, 10 years. And that, if you plan it and then make it amply clear, this is how I want this to go. So they also have a thing called a healthcare proxy. We don't have that, but which is a person, which could be a lawyer, which could be a family friend, not necessarily your children, who now know all of this, including where your documents are, who the nominees are for whatever you own, where the keys to your locker are, who knows all of this. This could be a younger well-wisher, or this could be a professional. But there they have it again, quite templatized. There is such a thing as a healthcare proxy. If you look up on the internet, there are all the attributes of what you should look for in a healthcare proxy. But it's very important for us, for Shaunak or all of us, to there has to be one person outside of the immediate family, especially if you don't want to tell the immediate family what is where and you don't want them to have access right now. You may have willed everything to them, but just now you don't want to talk about it to them. Nobody needs to know. Then you may have a really solid family friend who is possibly younger than you, or a lawyer who will know exactly what is where. So again, there is no sentimental confusion uh, once you're gone. I think it's a it's a gift. I'm not exaggerating. It's a gift to give your children a well thought out uh, advanced care plan, as well as a well written, unambiguous living will, and on a proper legal will too. I'm sure all of you know people, families where they're shocked to know there's a 92-year-old man, general, somebody highly educated, highly decorated, has just bypassed and avoided talking about will. Nobody has dared to tell him, hello, make your will, and has died intestate. And they have, for years, then there is all kinds of legal stuff where nobody gets their hands on the money or the property. And it creates great bad blood. And I think we owe it to our, survivors, whoever they are, to not just start this kind of utter confusion, and on the heels of that confusion all the mistrust that comes in. I think it's very, very important. So it's for him uh, to have guessed that your different children may be on a different page about you. Don't leave it to who will shout down who will take care of you in what way and where you will be moved. Put it down as far as you can. See, finally, end of life, there is going to be, you don't know where you'll be, whether you can say, but it's important to put down where you want to be, where you want to be, actually physically where you want to be, how you want to be. In the West, of course, they've planned it down to the T, what you'll wear when you're in the coffin, what prayers will be, what music. Maybe you don't want to, micromanage it that much, or maybe you do, which is also fine. What you would like played when people come to see your body. Why not? Why not? And I'm telling you, it gives your survivors something to do and to wrap their confusion, grief, fear, distress, all of it around something to do which has meaning, especially if automatically your family doesn't fall into religious ceremonies mode. And even if there are religious ceremonies, what Shonak is talking about is religious ceremonies cannot cover this, of what decisions are going to be made about you when you're alive, but need help. Now the important thing, I think, is to keep to revisit this conversation off and on. You may write it now at 78. I may write it now at 65. But things change, and I must revisit that document. I may change. I have the right, absolutely the right, to change my mind if I have said, no, I don't want any medication for these diseases if they pop up. But if I live another 5 years and something comes up and I now change my mind and I say, okay, up to this point, I will take medication. You have to, that document has to become something that is live and open for you. I'm not talking about a morbid fascination with one's end. Huh? Please understand. I'm not talking about just your children feeling, अरे इसको मिलो तो भी तभी ये death after my me, what will happen बोलता है. Not that. It's for you to make friends with the concept, to put it very simply, to make friends with the concept that my advanced care planning is in my hands and I need to communicate it. Uh, when I think typically when people start now, I feel in urban India, lots of people are quite, as he calls it, unsentimentally, they retire And amongst the many things they do along with retirement, they make their will. And that I think is a good, what is it? A good benchmark, a good milestone to use to when you can do this. Instead of just, you know, I don't know, all of you must have, instead of telling, I must do that thing, I must do that thing, I must do it, and sort of not do it and get up in the morning with this slightly thinking, I'm not prepared. I haven't packed my bags. गाड़ी आने वाली है, चलो मुसाफिर बिस्तर बांधो. But I haven't बांधो my बिस्तर. So I think it's not just good for the people who survive you, but for you to be very comfortable saying, here it is, I put it down. It doesn't have to be long discussions. Financial information, that can be one thing. Like I said, my father had it on the inside of his cupboard. Names of, you know, people who you would like to call if you have a funeral or a 10th day or 12th day, who your children may forget. I watch this in the family sometimes. That, you know, a 75-year-old father has passed away. Of course, the children and wife sit and think up who they'll call for, say, you know, a day to of prayer or remembering him. But this person, just like any of us, have very precious people in our lives who have nothing to do with the family. I don't know if, I'm sure some of you have those friends who have nothing to do with your family. And it, you know, it'll be some man with whom you've been having chai for your walk. He never comes home. He's not a family friend in that sense. But you want to, if you think it's important to you, and you want this person to, you know, be present or be informed. Forget about present, but be informed. You know that you've got all this put down. I feel this is. I was recently reading something about how as we age, three things must happen in a day. Three things, and one of them is doing uh, you know, something that you look forward to. One of them is doing chores, something that you look forward to, which may or may not be financially, like it's not work maybe, but which is a kind of project, you know. It may be just today the grills of this window. That could be in the chores or something to look forward to if you're a cleaning person. And part of it, I think, could very much be um, advanced care planning, one file opened in your computer and you're putting things as you think of them, you know. We are so many of us are Facebook friends. As we age, our children don't know anything about those friends. List who you really think should know. If you've gone or if you've moved or if you're now incapacitated, instead of just falling off each other's maps. I think that's part of the work that one could do. One of the things I felt about Shaunak's question was also that I think he spells it out also, that the fear that, you know, that your wishes are not just not followed, but the opposite of what you want is happening with you out of either confusion, kindness, or misplanning. I think that is very important, that he seems to be afraid of that. And that is a very important point that he's brought up, that there doesn't need to be any of this confusion. You know, I was just looking at some of the stuff on the internet on this. And they had a checklist about even things like, of course, do I want life-saving measures? Do I want palliative care? All of this is part of what you write. So do I want just pain management, or do I want cutting edge? You're free to say, I want whatever science is offering. I want it. And don't hesitate. And, you know, I may not be in a position to tell you, but if there is some, you know, completely new thing, and they want to try a drug on me, try it. You could be of that, thinking, and you put that down also. What to do with your remains? In many of our cases, it's ashes. Of course, they're also being buried or cremated. Whatever the options are, to make that very clear also, and where, down to whether you want it uh, religious rites at all or not. Sometimes these things happen by default, isn't it? Because you never said anything to anybody. And so one of your children may say, let's do the whole thing. And one of your children says that, no, I know he wouldn't want this. Why keep this? Why start this conversation? There's no need for it. And that's why I admire his question, his intention. In the West, of course, in some countries, there is the option for euthanasia, which we don't have here. But this is something where there's again a end of life choice where you can, of course, write it down. Whether you want to remain when your end is near, when you feel not much can be done, there are, even in India, there are the options now are home, care at home till the end, or hospice, which is an advanced version of a hospital where you're just being looked after and you're being helped along in your journey to exit. Skilled nursing or a nursing home or a facility like that, and just outright hospitals, But I'm sure all of you know, many people who say, I do not want to die in an ICU. And that itself is something that needs to be written down. It may not be fully in your hands, but you need to say it. And your children are then bound to and happy to probably follow your directive, if for want of a better word. Besides this absolute end of lifetime, it's important, to put down on paper or send emails to your children or whoever is your caregiver about the nitty-gritties of where your money is and how it can be accessed for your own medical use. It's also important to write down what medication we are taking. So many of our children don't have any idea what. They broadly know, she has some blood pressure thing, she has this. Has to be somewhere where you're writing. This is also part of, not end of life, but advanced care planning. I meet doctors who are just, shaking their heads and saying, what is going on? Somebody's taking something prescribed for 3 weeks. This is the, 8th month in which this lady is taking this, because nobody knows what she's taking. No older person knows. It's probably important to, older meaning adult person knows. Probably important to have your medicines reviewed. But if nothing else, at least somebody must know what you're taking regularly. I think that you owe to yourself and your children both. What else would go into what will go into this living will? It's worth looking up. It was very funny that my father long back made a living will, long back. And I said, where did you get nicely worded, beautifully worded? And I asked him, and this concept was just coming up then, maybe when, like in the early 2000s or late 90s or something. And he said, oh, I used to go to the British Council Library here and sit there reading stuff. And one day he picked up a magazine called The Lancet, which is a UK medical journal. And he saw a sample of the medical will. The living will. And believe it or not, of course, that generation, we believe it. He read it through once and he just memorized it. Not even copied it. Not even went out and Xeroxed it. Just memorized it, came home and wrote it. And then tailor-made it, custom-made it slightly to his specifics. And that was, I remember feeling that, what a great idea. What a good idea this is. I think we can give maybe a couple of hours a week to this project of writing down what you want. right from the in essentials about what music you want going, to who you want called and informed, to down to which of the things you don't want. You just do not want to go down the road of say. Nowadays, I think this ventilator and all of this, the choice is given to the family, and the family doesn't have to produce a document. But there are whole other gray areas where you just don't know. Yeah, we don't know whether he would have wanted it or not wanted it. As Shaunak seems to be somebody who has thought this out and does not want a lot of intervention, then it's even more important to put it down. Yeah, that's about what I had to I thought of when in terms of some of the stuff I've seen myself. What we see, what doctors advise us also, because it makes it easier for them. And then you see this next generation or whoever's left, it's become very common for there to be wildly different notions about what to do when one of your parents is gravely ill and is on his or her way out. So it is coming it's coming here to us, but we don't have the templatized protocols that are in place in the West. And even those are not easy. It's not like it's easy for anyone, but at least there is some guide rail to hang on to in that end journey for the people who are looking after that person. Yeah. Anything anyone wants to ask or say? Say to Shonak, say here. I'm just scrolling and looking at some of the stuff in the Western world, which is so easily templatized. And I would suggest that if any of you are interested in going deeper into this, to look at some of the stuff on websites for you to maybe literally pick and choose which of this you would like to have in place, which of the things that they um, that have been thought of for end of life management of somebody's end of life. They have a thing called portable medical orders, they're called. That those medical orders travel with the person. They're always on that person. Anyone who's got advanced frailty, serious illness, and so healthcare professionals have access to that. I'm forgetting its acronym, but basically it's portable medical orders in some form, quickly accessible to everyone. You don't have to be advanced ill or advanced frail, but by 60, 65, all of us have some fairly, fairly important thing that the other person who's going to, in an emergency or in ongoing palliative care has to know what your body has got used to, which medicines particularly, allergies, all of that. Because I think no one, very rarely do people get a chance to hear, it's upon you suddenly, debility is upon you, sudden illness, sudden hospitalization, all of that. But the most important thing I think is that, uh, we have some other questions on a similar lines, and people have said that maybe I should show my will to the youngsters so they know. I don't think we should confuse issues here. Your will is one thing. How your assets are being distributed, what you're doing for whom, has nothing to do with your aftercare planning. And you may want to be very transparent about it and tell them exactly what is what, or you may not want to and not confuse the issue. But that aspect of your finances, which communicate to whoever is going to manage them, if you suddenly can't sign, whose second name you're putting where, Who can operate? Who are you going to give power of attorney? That I think when you're perfectly hatta and katta is when you should put it all down and make it known to people. You know, I think I think we are here in India. We are fortunate enough to, in a way, have plenty of people in our lives. This that one person he's talking about, which is uh, you know I mean, they're talking about on these websites about this proxy person who they're talking about as a legal standing. But we have so many people who, if you sit them down and say, if you're writing your will and you ask for witnesses to come, you're spoiled for choice here. 25 people will turn up as witnesses for you. In the same way, proxy is an important thing. Somebody will hold the power of attorney for maybe just for 2 or 3 of your money, which can be quickly accessed. And I think it's good to find and decide this person could be the first responder. Your children could be all abroad before before money can be released. Any thoughts on this? What have most of you people done, if you want to share?
Yeah.
Have you started making your wills at all?
Yes.
Yes.
Nothing.
Yes. Yeah. Ah.
We made our wills a few years ago. I had made one way many years ago, and my husband was not particularly keen on it. But when we came to live here, he realized that we live off an expressway, and he says, "Yeah, any road accident, we could just be part of the road. So yes, we better." But that's a part. I think one of the most difficult things I've done, among many other difficult things, was asking my father to make his will.
Acha. Acha.
Because he had made one very slapdash will in which he left everything to my mother. I said,
Okay.
"Yeah, Daddy, okay, everything goes to my mother, that is fine. But what is everything?" I consulted a lawyer. So he had no clue that you have to list out your assets, your
Yeah.
bank account
Yeah.
details,
How would you
blah,
know?
blah, blah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, everything means what?
Yeah.
So,
And that
yeah,
generation used to have multiple bank accounts because they didn't have any faith in any one bank.
yeah.
Because banks
And
used to
so,
shut down. Yeah.
and
Mm.
he was already not very mobile or anything. So,
Hmm.
anyway, I got a couple of people to come and witness his will.
Hmm.
And then after that, of course, my brother passed away. So then he wanted to revise his will. So then we
Hmm.
had another will signing party in Calcutta. But it was the initial thought, the fact that, yes, you are asking a beloved parent to confront their mortality. Now,
Yeah.
although otherwise, gallows humor has been part of our conversations always.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
In our home, and even now, I think, we say, "Acha, if somebody is gone, we'll say, "Acha, laddu bat gaye, laddu
Ah.
bat gaye." So,
Ah. Yeah.
so
Taking it in your
I think
stride a
we
bit.
can
Yeah.
talk about it. And
Yeah.
in
Hmm. Hmm.
medical terms, they have this acronym, DNR, do not resuscitate.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
something that, yes, I think, I mean, I reached 70 this year. I think 70 above to clearly bol do bhai, ho gaya,
Ah.
DNR,
Ah.
koi zarurat
Ah.
nahi.
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
prolonging. In fact, Paul Kalanithi writes very, was it Kalanithi who's writing in When Breath Becomes Air, or Atul Gawande? Atul
Okay.
Gawande writes about his father's.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
it
Yes.
was Atul Gawande.
Yeah.
When,
Yeah.
as a doctor, he realizes that I cannot put my father through the kind of torture we are putting our patients through.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a medical professional, you think, yes, I must prolong life.
Yes. Yes.
But as a
Yes.
son, you are seeing the torment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, DNR is something my children are aware of, and I think we
Yeah.
will also make living wills and put
Yeah.
them in writing and all the
Yeah.
rest of it.
Yeah. Correct. Correct. Yeah. I
But
think
it is
I remember
something
when reading Atul Gawande's book, so quite a while ago, realizing that it's in a way easier in their country because there are these stages, no, right down to the hospice also. where then the say the spouse, who may be as almost as debilitated as the thing, is not having to take decisions or wrangle nurses and do all of that. The person has become almost the ward of the state. I realized
Yeah.
then that it is like that there. And it has both its sides, but it sounds less not traumatic, but it sounds as if it takes the decision out of that one son or one daughter or one spouse's hands of what to do every day next. So I remember reading his, what is it called? I've forgotten the very first book. Being, no, Being
I
Well?
forgot
No,
the name.
no, Being Well or something was different, a second one. Anyway, worth reading his book. That first book
Oh
is
yes,
worth reading
yes.
for all senior
Oh
citizens.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. Atul
And
Gawande.
I think also, in conversation with children, with elders,
Ah,
death is the ultimate reality. Now we have to talk about it, acknowledge it, accept it,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
realize, yeah, well, tomorrow. I mean, the acceptance that the world is everything is temporary, na? Everything
yeah.
is destructible, including us.
Yes, yes, yes.
And
And
that would,
yeah, yeah. No, just today, I have been a friend lives in another city, has an aunt and uncle in this city where I live. Was telling me that suddenly the challenge for them is they don't like to do online banking. They're old. They're in their
mm,
mid 80s. They don't like it, and they told their bank that we will come. If something is needed, we will come there.
mm,
Um, but just today she called and said, both their banks involve going up 8 flights of, I mean, 8 steps
okay.
on a kind of plinth. And suddenly both are not able to do it. It wouldn't be suddenly, they must have seen it coming.
Mm,
And, you know, she was saying that I was telling them you have to find somebody you trust who will go and bring money for you if you're not going to use ATM, whatever, but somebody you trust. And it's difficult for somebody who's not planned for that one person to, transfer your trust level to, from now on, I can't, here's my ATM card, pull out my money and bring it. You cannot get this person out of a pack. It is
yeah.
somebody you will have had to develop with the required checks and balances. And I think one has to plan for those things. And I was so struck by it because I felt, so what is my planning? Just now I can run up and down those steps. But either tomorrow or sometime from now I may not. What is my plan? Where's my that person who may go bring my money? What's going to happen? Should I go and talk to my bank saying, would you send somebody with money? If they are very, in India, the banks are very, very helpful to senior citizens, the private sector banks. And they try and bring a lot of their services to you to the house. But still, we are on that continuum, isn't it? All of us. So
Yes.
yeah, yeah. Rashmiji, do you want to say something?
हाँ मैम, अगर विल बनाना हो
हाँ,
तो क्या कोर्ट का प्रोसीजर जरूरी रहता है कि कोई फेमिलियर या नोन पर्सन जो हमारे क्लोज हो
हाँ,
उनका
हाँ।
साइन काफी रहता है?
नहीं नहीं, आजकल एवरीबडी सेज कि देयर टू थिंग्स, ऑफ कोर्स योर लॉयर विल टेल यू, बट वन इज नोटराइज करना, लिख के फिर कोई दो विटनेस और वो एक कोर्ट का नोटरी आके घर पे आके करेगा, दैट इज नोटराइजिंग. But if
ओके.
by any chance you have, um, you know, you think your children may fight with each other, or you think that your property has come from your parents or somebody else may claim, if there is going to be some gadbad, you think, then you must write your will and get it registered. That involves going to the registrar. Your lawyer will take you there. और वो रजिस्टर्ड विल दे से कोई उसको उस पे कुछ नहीं ये कर सकता है, उस पे
चेंज नहीं.
क्वेश्चन. हाँ, हाँ, हाँ. While a notarized will can be challenged, but if you think there's no issue and it's all very clear, किसको क्या जाने वाला है, then you just notarize it. But you do need that छाप. Technically people say एक पेपर पे लिखा हुआ or दो witness आए. But I think nowadays nobody leaves that because the stakes are very high, no, because of property and stuff like this, prices of property and all of that. So, but as a starting point, it's a very good idea to write it down first of all, to for you to clarify. You know, the process when you start writing down, you realize ki what you thought was so simple. No, there are some things, and you remember some people maybe who you want to include. However modest your money is,
I
it
am
makes
very
you think.
transparent with my children,
Huh, huh,
and I show them. I made one diary and
yeah,
put all my documents
yes,
and necessary in
huh,
my diary, and my documents is the same place, and I
huh,
show my son and my daughter-in-law also.
हाँ 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 कि ये यहाँ है, राइट, हाँ कि ये
हाँ,
यहाँ पे है,
हाँ,
सडनली लगेगा तो करेक्ट 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 या
यस।
या
पर मैं वही चीज मुझे जानना था कि कोर्ट की प्रोसीजर उसके अंदर
हाँ
जरूरी है क्या?
हाँ हाँ
तो
हाँ. So, notary, कोई भी lawyer, if you contact, for some fee, they will bring a notary to the house, and you'll need two witnesses who are not in the will. They are people who are not benefiting from your will. So it's best to do. It's best to do that, you know. Or this thing. And today, from what we're talking, ये जो living will, what they call, about these things, कि कितना medical ये चाहिए, कितना नहीं चाहिए, treatment, machines to be on things, how you want, um, your at the end, how you want your funeral to be, all of that. I think it's we were talking about this in another context from an earlier question that had come, that it's a difficult time after you passed away for near and dear ones, but you can make it much more graceful and elegant an exit for them if you have not left all kinds of awkward and difficult loose ends to be tied up. I know this personally also, that I remember feeling that how how wonderful, we were just ignoring what our father was telling us because कौन bank का देखें, but how wonderful that there is just no confusion. And you know what he says is there, वो एक paper निकलते गया just as he was talking. I think that's it somehow it goes beyond just being sensible and helpful. You feel cared for by your parent actually.
It's the ultimate act of love,
Of, of,
Gauri.
of consideration. Yeah, yeah. Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah.
To
Yeah.
simplify their lives in so
Yeah.
far as you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, correct. Yeah. Uh, that
Hi, Gauri.
yes.
Oh,
Yes,
sorry,
Meena.
you saying something?
No. No. I was just looking at this legal part of it. That
Yeah.
is, you know, and in fact, I think GenS has a different thing where they sometimes have conversations with lawyers about such things. No, you say, Meena.
Mm. So my father died in the year 2000. At that time, it wasn't a requirement that you know, actually had a
Notarized will.
notarized will
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
even had it registered. You could write it on plain paper and it was
Yes.
accepted.
Yes.
So by 2016, when my mother passed away, it became necessary.
Yeah.
It's a must now that you get
Yeah.
it notarized and registered. Because we had to, my mother's will was notarized, not registered. Then we had to do some running around for it.
Acha.
Yes. Not that, yeah. So it's good to do
It's
both
best
processes,
to.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's best to
Yeah.
do both processes.
Yeah.
And, a lot of us who talk about the living will, there's a lot of confusion because, and I wish there was some more guidance on how to write a living will, because it talks about stages, right? And you may write a particular stage.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm talking to my husband and we say that, acha, because he keeps saying, don't take me to the hospital. So I said, suppose I fall down in a faint.
Yeah.
What will you do? Will you just turn your face the other way and say, कि उसने तो बोला था hospital नहीं लेके जाना?
हाँ ना.
Or it's very difficult, even if you've stated it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
rather difficult for the other person to take a decision कि भाई इन्होंने तो बोला था hospital नहीं लेके
Yeah.
जाना.
Yeah. Yeah.
तो
Yeah.
अब
No, it's a slippery
we
slope.
just,
Where do
it's
you?
very slippery.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very slippery.
Huh.
And my father's will had one thing where he had wanted his body to be donated.
Hmm.
Now this he had put to us even while we were in college, and it
Yeah.
had disturbed us immensely at that time.
Acha.
And then of course it became we spoke about it. Yeah, he wants his body to be donated, but when the time came,
Hmm.
and since he had left the decision to me,
Hmm.
my my knees were buckling. You know, I couldn't muster up sufficient courage
Yeah.
to take him to AFMC. He wanted his body to be donated where my brother had studied.
Hmm.
So to take him there and to know that he will be, you know, dissected upon or
Yeah.
whatever else
Yeah.
happens in the dissection.
Yeah.
And I almost didn't do it. I
Oh, I see.
almost backed out of it. So he had written it.
I
He had
see.
written it.
Hmm.
I knew of it.
Hmm.
And yet there was this thing of feeling, nahi hoga mujhse.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
can't do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Still,
Yeah.
I think good sense prevailed. And I said, he hasn't written this lightly. This has
Yes.
come out of a whole lifetime of thinking.
A belief. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's come out of a whole lifetime of what he wanted, what he
बराबर है.
believed
हाँ. हाँ.
in.
Hmm.
So to just sort of, you know, brace yourself and go ahead and do it
Hmm.
is important.
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever people may have written, said, done, it helps to rotate the thought in your head.
Yes.
Definitely. It's a very good
Yes.
thing. I think it's a very good thing. We should talk. We should
We
make
revisit
the
it.
conversation open.
Yes.
Revisit
Yes.
is an important thing.
Yes.
So I've also written down some points for Juhi and Ajit,
Hmm.
and periodically I sort of remind them of. Both of them don't want to listen, but it's written down. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and a friend of mine has, you know, she's part of Pallium India, which is a group that helps people to get more educated, to educate themselves about death.
अच्छा.
Yeah, because
What
general
is it
thing is
called?
that
What is it called?
Pallium India, Pallium India, it's
PALL?
mainly IUM,
अच्छा.
Pallium India.
Okay, I'll write it down. Yeah.
I can share with you
हाँ. हाँ.
my friend Indira Chowdhury's
Okay.
number, so if you'd
Oh.
like to.
Yeah.
It's an
Yeah.
open group, and
Hmm.
one can be invited to join it.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
So one of the nice things that she told me about is to have this file. जैसे one of the
File.
ladies अभी
हाँ.
बताया था कि डायरी रखी उन्होंने,
हाँ.
so she has suggested a file
Hmm.
which is titled for When I'm No More.
अच्छा. Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
and वो
Hmm.
file में things like, you know, because when you go to the cremation ground, then they might require some identification.
Hmm.
You know, that the person you are saying you are
Remaining.
or even to get your death certificate, right?
Yeah.
So you might
Yeah.
need an Aadhaar card or something,
Yes.
and
Yes.
then not be able to find it at that point.
Yeah.
So whenever something comes to your mind,
Yeah.
just keep putting it in the file,
Hmm.
including maybe
Hmm.
living will, a copy of your will if you
Hmm.
want,
Hmm. Hmm.
and whatever else.
Yeah.
You mentioned account numbers, locker numbers,
Right.
passwords,
Right.
things
Yeah.
like that. To
Yeah.
put
Yeah.
it in one place, put it in a file.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
you had mentioned music and what you want to wear. I think it's a good idea. It's a very good idea to
Yeah.
toy around with it and
Yes. Yes. Why not? Why not?
and keep it. Yeah, keep it prepared, because then you're not sort of running. I know that for my mother-in-law, I was running around to find something that I could put her in when they were going to take her out.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I was running around. For my mother, I thought a little bit.
Hmm.
Right? It
Hmm.
was, but I thought she liked blue or she liked little flowers. And I said, okay, well, this is the kurta that it will be. Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a little bit of thinking, I think, helps. And it
Yes.
saved that mad, crazy running around at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It
Somehow,
get
and as I
prepared.
was saying, na, it gives some. One thing is for the people who are left, कुछ करने को कुछ some system, especially if you are not into the standard religious procedures. That gives its
Yes.
own cycle also for you to do. But this, and also there's the grace that, that feeling of grace that you are doing something that the person would approve of, would like.
Yes.
Liked.
Yes.
Yeah. It is the odd thing is about this donation, one should find out. So, for example, my parents put their name down when they must have been 60 or something. But they died, my mother died quite soon after that, but highly operated body. And we didn't know all this. And the people who encourage you to donate the body they should also tell you that in India, then you're at the last minute, you're told that we have plenty of bodies. And this highly operated body, iska hum kuch nahi kar sakte. All very distressing then.
Yeah.
And so then we discouraged our father later. Otherwise, they'd both registered for this. And those guys had said, we come and we take the body. Aisa kuch nahi hua. We were hanging around Sassoon Hospital with my mother. So I'm saying it has to be, again, that also has to be revisited. Some of these plans.
Yes, because rules change.
Rules change. The situation in your country changes. I mean, this thing, deep inside a public hospital, you'll know the truth that there are enough bodies. Imagine, for students.
It didn't happen with my father, but I guess that could be the situation.
Yeah. No, and also a much operated body, very kindly told us that this is not of much use, but same thing. Yeah, we just, so.
But it's certainly worth a lot of thinking and some amount of planning, I think.
Okay, Rashmi. Yeah, she's written down this thing. What is that postcard?
Procedure, sorry.
Achha.
My English is little poor.
No. Procedure. Right. So, right. So he has made it very, correct.
तो यहाँ साइन हॉस्पिटल में से उन्होंने पूरा उनका प्रोसीजर है, उनका पूरा बॉडी का जो भी शरीर में तकलीफ था वो सब उनका एट ए टाइम सब रिपोर्ट निकाल के वो रिपोर्ट के साथ एक फॉर्म भराया गया था। विथ दैट डॉक्यूमेंट के ऊपर वो सही सिक्का सब रहता है वैसे, और वो फाइल दिया जाता है परमानेंट।
अच्छा।
कि जब बॉडी को डोनेट करना होता है तो वो फाइल लेके चले जाने का, यहाँ से कॉल करेगा तो या तो साइन हॉस्पिटल से आके बॉडी लेके जाते हैं या ऐसे, तो ऐसा प्रोसीजर किया हुआ है उन्होंने।
I see. That makes it easier also, no? इतना organized कोई कुछ ऐसे कर रहा है तो it just makes it a little easier and क्या बोलते हैं, in Marathi there's a word भकास.
बच्चे लोगों को डिसीजन लेने में सुविधा है।
Exactly. बिल्कुल।
नहीं तो क्रॉस ओपिनियंस हो सकते हैं।
वही ना, यही इसको भी जिसने ये लेटर लिखा है ना, शौमिक ने, उसको वही डर है कि क्रॉस ओपिनियंस, फिर उसमें अनबन एंड कुछ इट्स अ डेलिकेट टाइम फॉर एवरीबडी, फिर उसमें कुछ झगड़े एंड लाइफ लॉन्ग कुछ अलग ही ट्रैक पे इट गोज समटाइम्स, नहीं क्या? Okay, shall we stop here today? I'll tell you what, anyone has anything else to add, please feel free to. I'll tell you what the theme is for May 28th. I've postponed what I told you all earlier about the grieving. But for 28th, for next week, the question has come about when grown children accuse the senior of favoring one sibling over the other. It may not be necessarily only about wills and all, just favoring. ये एक पुराना allegation, यानी आरोप ना है कि sometimes, and how a senior should deal with it, because there are families in which it's a very serious crack between siblings and their parents, and as you grow older, you're very tired of explaining yourself, or maybe you need to look at your own behavior, all of that. So the question is based on this theme that when grown children keep on accusing their senior parent of favoritism. Okay, we'll stop here then. Rish, we've come to the end of today's session. We are signing off now. Okay, bye everybody. Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, bye. Bye. See you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for your participation.
Bye.